grew up in South Harmony, Morgan's Branch. I was in the second grade when World War II started. And I remember in the third grade, we collected scrap metal for the war effort. And they give you rank according to how many pounds of scrap metal. Heck, I was in the third grade and I was a lieutenant colonel. But that's the third grade. My mission that day was to take a picture of the first raid on the Thanwar Bridge. I was right on treetops, and I climbed up just as I was supposed to hit the target. Coming up on the target, I pulled up 200 feet because I was right in the tops of the trees. And as I started pulling up, this sky just opened up. It looked like 4th of July, and then I got 3 thumps back behind me in the back end of the airplane, and it just went limp. And I reached down to pull the handles to get out of it, and I guess the airplane was right upside up. And then the chute opened almost immediately. My helmet had come off, and I saw the airplane, and it was tumbling end over end, and it hit a hill over there and burned. I waited for 2 days and got caught. And they were pretty tough interrogations. They banged me around a little bit. I was really beat by then. I had been out there in the woods a couple of days. It was raining, and they took me back and put me in a bed. Didn't have any mattress or anything on it. It just had concrete slabs in each one of those cells. And each one of these rooms had those 2 beds, slabs, and they had leg irons in it that they operated from the outside. The cells had 1 window in it. All we had for toilet was a bucket. And I ended up in manacles. Manacles are handcuffs, but they're together. They're not. There's no chain in between. You're like this. With your hand, you could do like this, but that's about the amount of movement you could have. It was difficult to wash and to have help. Fortunately, I had cellmates that were helpful. I was released on the first airplane, and that came out in '73, 12th February.
Since I was 12 years old, I've heard his stories all around the state and other places of his perseverance in fighting through 7 years and 10 months of being a POW. He's a hero to me. He's one of the strongest people I know.
Up here at the cabin, I had been watching bears and learning bears for many years, and it was a bear that we had become particularly close to named Peaches.
About 3 or 4 years ago when he first got to place, I was coming out a lot helping him fix up different things. It was an old place. I was shocked he chose to get it, but he just wanted to spend some time with nature. He wanted to get closer to nature. than he ever had before, and we never imagined how much nature he would get close to with all the deer, turkey, and bears that were around here. And that's when we'd first meet Peaches. We'd be out here working on the pond and trying to get it restored in the cabin. And she would just kind of get about 10 or 20 feet away, curious, watching us work, and we'd do nice things to kind of spook her so she wouldn't get too used to humans. But no matter what you did, you know, it seemed like she just came back every day just curious and wanted to watch and see what you were doing. And that's when we first in life got a real bond to a bear like that. You know, most of the time black bears are so timid, they'd see us and keep their distance, but she always just kept getting closer and closer just to see what we were doing.
Peaches was so special to my family. We enjoyed watching her. My whole family did. My nieces and nephews would come down and watch bears or any wildlife with us, and it was a joy whenever Peaches came in. The reason she's named Peaches is I had thrown out probably about 15 old peaches out in the yard, and my nieces and nephews here, my little 4-year-old niece Alexis, I said, you know, this bear, we've never really named her. Would you like to name her? And she said, I think we should call her Peaches because she eats peaches. So that's how Peaches got her name.
About a year ago, she was a first-time mother. She last year she came in the spring in 2019 with 3 little babies, and she would nurse them beside us and nurse in the yard, and we posted many pictures and things on the site, you know, maybe 10 or 20 yards away, you know, because she felt so safe around this cabin in this little cove. We found where black bears feel safe, that they are curious and they'll come around and be a real joy to those that watch them.
She went missing sometime in July, and then when she came back in August 18th, the cubs looked great. She looked emaciated and was totally fearful of me, which is very abnormal, and she was missing half of her front right limb.
It was the day before my brother's birthday, and he picked me up like most mornings for me to come up here and, you know, hang out, do some work around the cabin, and hopefully see some bears. And when he picked me up that morning, he was in tears, and he said Peaches just walked through with her cubs, missing her right leg. And she had disappeared for 4 weeks, and everybody was worried about her because we were used to seeing her every day. And all of a sudden she was just gone for 4 weeks, and her cubs, and no one saw her. And that morning she came in walking by the cabin, very scared, very timid.
Yeah, that was probably one of the worst days I've had in many, many years. I said her name, which normally she would stop and get curious and all that, but just me saying her name scared her so much, she just bolted up that hill, and I've never seen her again. Just later that afternoon, we went to our parents' house and told them.
The same day we saw Peaches, WLOS, the local News 13 station, aired on TV a mother bear missing the opposite leg, a left limb, also had 3 cubs.
In this very same area, less than a mile from here.
An adult black bear missing much of her front leg, spotted in Buncombe County.
And that's when our father, Colonel Scotty Morgan, 8-year POW, very worldly, very intelligent, said it looks like somebody's trapping bear.
I had seen in the past the big traps that were used to trap bears. I mean, it was pretty obvious that something had taken that leg off.
And right then we knew something was seriously wrong. Our stepfather, Colonel Morgan, knew right out the gate that it was trapping, and these bears lost their limbs from a trap. They had no other injuries other than the high missing limb on the front, one on the right leg and one on the left. And he said that the only way we'd find somebody and who's doing this is to put a reward out there. So we did start a reward with the Morgans, and with them sponsoring it.
We decided to start our Facebook page, thinking we were going to catch maybe a neighborhood trapper, hopefully, but we've uncovered so much more.
We started getting all kinds of tips from the 2 counties of bears missing limbs in different areas.
Then the checks found another one someplace else.
And then they found out that another one was missing, and then sort of just rolled on from there, that people started sending in things, and you had another one missing, and it just got bigger and bigger.
I've realized how bad
the bear poaching problem actually is.
We realized it was big just because of how many reports were coming in. And within just a couple to 3 months, we had over 12 bears missing limbs.
We're up to 14 bears.
22 and counting.
Nowhere else in the world has that many three-legged bears.
We began looking in just to the bear part trade and the Asia demand of it, and it's really a major problem that bear paws and the gallbladder are some of the most highest sought items in the illegal wildlife market and bring some of the highest money.
One bowl of bear paw soup can go for up to 1,000 US in China. That's more than the medium income for a family over there. I've seen gallbladders go for as much as 10 grand. It's a dark world. It's fueled by greed, drugs, and it's the very wet markets that have made the news in this past year and a half or so from this virus.
Once these bears lose their limbs, it's a struggle for them to walk. They're very heavy. Bears are very thick, so it puts a whole lot of pressure on one of the limbs. So there's a lot more suffering that's going to come to these bears in the future. And even though bear trapping is highly illegal to do, we were shocked to realize that it was being propagated by local stores and being sold on Amazon. Bear traps, steel teeth jaw traps, snares, and attractants.
Right here.
Yeah, here's a can of bear balm from Amazon right here. Bacon. Many of these traps are illegal to use, but not illegal to sell. And that would be like saying, well, it's legal to sell drugs, but not to use drugs.
If they're illegal to use, then Amazon shouldn't be selling them. They can make a profit on about everything else, so why do that?
This is something that has to be changed and something that Amazon should have known better. Amazon traps and these traps that are sold are made out of cast iron steel. And these traps are now out in the woods and on lands, and they will continue to maim and kill for decades to come. Amazon's platform is simple with any product. It's to make it the cheapest and ship it for free. So therefore it made traps, snares, and steel jaw traps and attractants more readily available than any time before in our history. They helped bear poaching by supplying these instruments. In 2016, Amazon executives were shown a bear missing a limb in India, and they took over 400 items down that was linked to trapping and things that were hurting the wildlife in India, but yet continued to sell those items in the USA and elsewhere. Amazon has to be accountable for this. They sold steel jaw traps for over a decade by the thousands, and they still sell snare traps and attractants. As more bears came in missing limbs, and as the outcry came from the community and a petition was started against Amazon, a lot of people came to sign that petition very quickly, and Amazon did respond, and within a few months they've taken down steel jaw traps but continue to sell snares and attractants. And HAB and our members, because of Peaches and the Bears We Know Missing Limbs, we're committed to holding Amazon accountable because they did this around the world. And these traps last for decades and will continue to maim and kill animals for years to come. And they've got to support rehabilitations and sanctuaries everywhere they've sold traps to make up for this and to make up to animal lovers for what they've done.
They dang sure take the injured bears and get them rehabilitated and then back out into their natural, normal, wild environment. That can be set aside in a fairly remote area of the National Forest. There are people who will donate to where it won't cost the taxpayers anything. They can have veterinarians to take care of the injured bears and possibly other animals also.
These traps are indiscriminate. Whatever steps in it, it's around their leg, whether it be a dog, a cat, a bear, a wolf, a fox, or bobcat. The sanctuaries and rehabilitations in this country and around the world are full of animals with missing limbs and tragedies from traps. do what's right and support the sanctuaries and rehabilitation centers that are fixing all these problems from the profits they made off of trap sales here and around the world.
That helped the reputation considerably. Be a smart thing to do. And to see these bears being trapped and mutilated by the traps it really bothers me, and I have sympathy for them.
We've worked close with our followers on the idea of having a sanctuary and rehabilitation center in Asheville that we can take in all the bears with missing limbs and make sure that they get the treatment for the future to make that other leg strong and to monitor them and give them the most comfortable life that they can. We also, in this time, got many reports of bears hit by cars, cubs injured, broken legs, different things out there around the community and through West North Carolina. And the rehabilitation center would allow us to help those bears and re-release them back into the communities. And at the same time, giving sanctuary to the bears that can't be re-released. But we hope that our sanctuary will be a way that we can work with other states to say, versus putting that friendly black bear down, let us put them in our friendly sanctuary in our friendly city of Asheville, North Carolina. That's why there's so much support and want for this sanctuary to happen. And there's such a need for it to happen. These bears deserve the best moving forward to help them through their tragedy and through their suffering.
He had a bear claw at this time in his hand, a big bear claw, and I said, "Where did you get that?" He said, "I cut it off of a bear." We would have the homecomings for the church, and that was Sam that done that, unloaded, and Tim that unloaded the traps out of the back of the trucks at this one homecoming that we was at that time. I mean, it was pretty huge, bear claw in his hand. It was the part to where he was hold this part to where this part here, it was like having probably this much of a bear arm, because he'd hold on to this part and this part here would be limber, so it was a pretty good size claw. And I found out I was involved in trapping animals, bears mostly. The more that I got to know them and the more I went out there, the more I found out that they was into archery and stuff, and they took and had photos where they would shoot the bears with the archeries. They would trap the bears in the trap. They would hang meat in trees with traps underneath the trees, trapping the bears. All kinds of bears, cub bears, mama bears, daddy bears, I mean all kinds of bears. It didn't make no difference to them what they killed, they would kill it. And also when it come to the deer and animals and raccoons or whatever, they would shoot it either with a archery or a gun. They would kill it. To me, I felt like they done it more for entertainment, because they never missed a weekend that I know that they didn't leave to go do it. As far as selling the parts of the bear, I'm sure probably some of that was happening too. And all because, I mean, there was just too many people involved for it to just be entertainment and too much hunting. And they had all kinds of traps there at this time also, the time that you would fold down and it would come back up with teeth in it, and I guess that's what would cut the bear's leg off or something eventually, if they didn't get to it before he got his leg off or something. They said they've had some that would chew their leg off and leave their leg in the trap. When I found out all this, I called Wildlife again, and I said, look, I've done reported this thing one time and never heard anything from it, but this went on for years, and it got so intense that they even shot through my mother's trailer trying to shoot my brother. This is after they found out that they didn't kill him. by trying to beat him to death to start with. At this point, I got involved. And I did go out there with guns with intent to do bodily harm, because I wasn't going to see my mom and my dad get shot. I feared that if they really find out who that I am and what I'm doing, I'm afraid that they'll do a drive-by shooting at my home. That's what I'm worried about. That's really what I'm worried about, that they'll try to come and damage some of my family. I feel that it's got way too far, and there's still a lot of cruelty of it going on. I'd like to see a stop to it. I'd like to see the animals be able to live in peace and all. You know, I chose to do this because I want to do what I can to help the bears. I want to help Alex because I know he's got a lot involved. And I want to get it off of my heart and feel free with God with it. And do what I can to, everything that I can to help Alex with this. And also, I'm going to do my part the best that I can. I've come this far. I'm not going to back down now. I'm ready to finish this thing up.
You are a sorry son of a fucking bitch, you tree-hugging motherfucker. You let me tell you something, Alex. I think you are a sorry son of a fucking bitch. You got me involved with the damn game wardens. I do not damn bear poach. You are a motherfucker to get me involved with this shit. You are a goddamn son of a bitch. And if I ever fucking find out who you are, you've had a fucking bad day. Good fucking bye.
Retail giant Amazon has been the largest supplier of animal traps and snares in the world for more than a decade. These horrible devices are used to maim, torture, and kill our beloved bear population of western North Carolina, and in many instances, harming and killing a variety of other wildlife and even household pets. Thankfully, after a long and difficult battle, and the outcry of hundreds of thousands of fellow concerned citizens and animal lovers, Amazon has stopped the sale of these deadly traps. But the real fight is just beginning. An historic tragedy is playing out in the Blue Ridge and Smoky Mountains right now, with at least 34 bears missing limbs due to the horrific nature of these devices. The traps that have already been sold will last for decades, and we must stop their use for any reason. Please join us in our efforts to hold Amazon accountable for their role in making record profits from harming and killing our innocent wildlife. Sign and share our petition, contact Amazon directly, and demand that Amazon do the right thing in supporting the development of wildlife rehabilitation centers and sanctuaries in every country in which they have sold traps. It's up to us to help defend our natural wildlife and to demand a ban on the sale and use of these barbaric traps for good. Please use your power and your voice to support the animals who have no voice of their own in the fight.